Hi everyone, welcome back to AWS What's Next. My name is Kunal Batra and I'm a senior developer advocate here. And in this session, we're going to be covering the recent feature launches for Amazon CodeGuru. So I'm joined by the principal product manager who helped make all this possible, Vishnu Parimi. Vishnu, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kunal. My name is Vishnu. I'm a principal manager for CodeGuru, and I've been working at Amazon as a product manager for a little over 5 years now. And most of the time, I've been working on how to apply ML for various real-world applications. And being a developer myself, it's very exciting to work on this new product where I can apply ML to improve developers' productivity.
So before we go into, I believe it's some like five different feature launches for CodeGuru. Can we talk a little bit about what is CodeGuru and the two underlying services, Reviewer and Profiler, for our customers and viewers who aren't familiar with it?
Yeah. So Amazon CodeGuru uses machine learning to improve code quality and identify applications' most expensive lines of code. We do offer two services under the CodeGuru umbrella. The reviewer, which is earlier in the developer cycle, it analyzes your code to identify critical issues and hard to find bugs. And it also helps improve code quality as a result and provides recommendations on how to remediate issues. And then there is the profiler, which optimizes application performance and identifies the most expensive lines of code, helping troubleshooting performance issues and saves customers on compute costs.
So just some couple of more questions here before we get into the new features. So when we're talking about CodeGuru Reviewer, where does this typically fit in the software development lifecycle?
Yeah, so if you see, look at the traditional software development cycle, developers write and review code, and then they check in into production, and they try to improve its performance, and then they do this over multiple times during their entire application's life cycle. So reviewer really comes at the earlier stage where you're writing and developing code. So as you make changes to the code and raise code review requests, you can automatically invoke reviewer to provide code review recommendations. It just acts as an additional peer like you would have for doing code reviews. And once it is approved, you then deploy the application to production. At production, this is where the profiler comes in. So profiler is deployed on every instance of your uh, production uh, service, and then it starts collecting stack traces, and it analyzes those stack traces to provide any CPU performance improvements or any memory performance improvements.
So now with Profiler, what kind of overhead are we talking for this agent?
So really, Profiler has very low memory overhead. It is less than 1% um, of the. Actually, it has both very low total overhead. It takes less than 1% of your application's compute cycles.
That makes sense. And then can you talk a little bit more about how our customers are currently using CodeGuru?
Yeah, so customers use CodeGuru to identify uh, coding bugs and improve code maintainability and also achieve performance improvements. So all these factors lead to improved developers' productivity and cost savings for the company. A couple of examples are Atlassian, which uses Amazon Profiler in their production environments. They are currently running Profiler as a continuous monitoring service where they are able to optimize CPU utilization and achieve cost savings of as much as 60%. There are also companies like DevFactory that use Reviewer for code modernization initiatives. Modernization could mean porting your application logic from dated languages to Java or migrating code bases to newer versions of the same languages, such as Java 8 or Java 11. So when developers are doing that, they can use Reviewer to provide recommendations on best practices and also identify any coding bugs that may materialize during the process.
Great. So let's get into the good stuff now. What are we announcing, or what was announced for reinvent?
Yep. So we have just announced 5 new features for reinvent under the CodeGuru umbrella. The security detectors. So this is a feature where we are expanding our recommendations to include any code security recommendations that are really important for CIOs and CSOs in a company. And then we are adding support for a new language, Python, uh, for both reviewer and profiler. Historically, reviewer only uh, provided recommendations on Java code, and profiler provided recommendations on JVM languages. Now it includes support for Python. The third one is a big capability where we are adding support for memory profiling. It is one of the biggest asks from our customers, especially the current customers that are using Profiler. And we have also made uh, other improvements in our existing features, such as we have launched a simplified GitHub Enterprise onboarding experience, which is like you have a single page where you can provide all the details that are related to connecting to an enterprise servers such as VPC, and then you can get immediate feedback on whether the connection is successful or not. Last but not least, we have also added code quality recommendations. These are recommendations like if your, for example, if your function calls a lot of functions, or if your function is being called by a lot of functions, we just say that it is too complex to maintain and we provide recommendations.
Sounds good. I'm actually really excited for the Python support. I know that was the first language of my choice after we announced Java last year. Can you show us a little bit more about what CodeGuru can do with Python?
Yeah. So Python is a widely used language, especially in machine learning and data analysis areas. So we have mined thousands of pages of Python documentation and also millions of lines of Python code to create code recommendations in areas such as best practices with Python libraries and Python SDK, things like resource leaks, and also hard to find Python bugs. I can quickly give a demo which showcases the power of Python recommendations here. Um, so have we switched to the demo?
I see it.
Oh, okay, great. So this is, so when you go onto CodeGuru, you actually see the CodeGuru dashboard. Uh, you can select a region here, and then for this demo, I would select a North Virginia region, and then you can see for your account, if you're associated, if you have associated CodeGuru, you can see the profiler and reviewer recommendations here. Now you can associate a repository with CodeGuru. We provide the list of supported repositories here: Code Commit, Bitbucket, GitHub, GitHub Enterprise Client, and GitHub Enterprise Server. So for the purpose of this demo, we will use GitHub Cloud. First, I connect to the GitHub account. So it's automatically connecting to me because I have already done it before and I've provided the credentials. But if it's your first time, you need to provide the credentials here. Once it's connected, it shows the list of repositories in GitHub. And for this purpose, I will select the MS Demo repository and I will click on Associate. So you can see the repository is associating. Once the repository associates, I'm now showing the GitHub MS Demo repository. Any pull requests raised on this repository will be automatically analyzed by CodeGuru. So let's make sure that the repository is associated. It's taking a couple of minutes. That I can actually show. For this demo, there is a master branch, and then I created a demo branch. In this demo branch, you will see that there is a file that I've added. And right now, I'll create a pull request between these two branches, which is essentially this extra file that I've added. Oh, actually, since I'm showing a Python demo, I will switch to a Python branch in here. Let me just check whether, so now you see the repository is associated. So now I create a pull request in here in my repository. So I go to pull requests, new pull request, and I compare this with the Python branch that I've created. And then you can see the code that I'm adding as part of the pull request. Yep. And then the pull request has been created. So now if you click on this pull request, you see that CodeGuru provides recommendations. And you can see that there are a couple of recommendations in here. We can
So
go
the
through.
recommendations are under your account name. Is that what I'm looking at here?
Yes, recommendations are under my account name, although it is provided by Amazon CodeGuru Reviewer.
Got it.
Because it is in my account, it shows that way. But if you see here, it actually says it's generated on CodeGuru Reviewer. So this particular recommendation, for example, it is a global variable. So we do say that setting such global variables is dangerous because they can be easily modified and it goes unnoticed in the code. Uh, Second type of recommendation I can talk about here is if you are scanning any record from a database, you should always look for the last evaluated key. Otherwise, you will be looking or working on a partial result. Uh, we can look at one more recommendation. So in this particular case, you what this recommendation says is your code is initializing vector words, but in the for loop, let me see if I can show you that code. In that for loop, which is in line number 60, you're actually changing that vector, and that is always modifying that sequence. So what it says is modifying that sequence while iterating over it will lead to unexpected bugs. So we do catch, if you see, we do look at the code, we analyze the flow of the code, and then provide recommendations. An additional way of viewing your recommendations is you go to code reviews, and then you can see here, we also, you can see the number of lines that we have analyzed and the number of recommendations we have provided, and you can also see the list of recommendations. This is the same list that are also posted in your pull request.
That makes sense. And in terms of the buckets of what Code Reviewer can do, can you talk a little bit about that? What types of code does it, or types of issues does it detect? I see concurrency, race conditions. Anything more you can add there?
It's best practices in Python libraries and also Python SDKs. So best practices in AWS Python SDKs. There are resource leaks. There is also data flow checks that we make. There are also some kind of hard to find Python issues like the word vector that I've shown, where you actually forget that you have initialized it and you're also operating on the same vector.
Got it. And is there a way to provide feedback to improve the service? So is there some way I can let the team or Code Guru know that this recommendation was helpful or not for some future release of the service?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the dashboard that I've shown earlier, where you see the list of the recommendations, you actually, for every recommendation, you have a like or an unlike button. You can click on that. That way, we automatically get it as a feedback, and we check that feedback, and automatically our algorithms learn on that to reduce false positives.
Got it. Nice. So then we talked about Python support. Let's move on to the next feature launch over here. Can you talk a little bit more on security detectors and what kind of issues they can detect?
Sure. Security has been one of the biggest asks from our customers. As I told earlier, security recommendations are very critical for financial companies. And to that matter, any company that stores any kind of customer information, and it's a priority for any CIOs and CSOs in the company. So at launch, so when we launched this, uh, we identify now security risks from the top 10 OWASP categories. These include things like SQL injection, weak hash encryption, and also we provide security best practices for AWS APIs and Java crypto libraries. So our security detectors use machine learning to analyze data flow from source to sink. and across multiple functions to detect hard to find issues. An example I could say is, for example, if you're initialized a cipher, or if you're initialized the credentials in a particular function, and then you are actually using the credentials in some other function, we do actually track the program flow to say that you have initialized a hard-coded credential that you're using it somewhere else in a different function, and this might lead to a security issue.
Nice, nice. You detect those hard-coded credentials and you notify the user about that. Uh, can you show a security detector action?
Sure, we can quickly go
Switch
through a
back to the
demo.
demo again.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now again?
I can, I can.
Okay. So for security recommendations, the one difference is you don't need to associate any repository at onboarding. That's because for security, um, we we need customers or developers to upload their source code and build artifacts, and because they do that as part of this on invoking process, we don't need to separately associate a repository like we did for Python recommendations. So here, security recommendations are provided through this repository analysis workflow. So you come here, you let me select a region. So I go back, I redo the same thing. So you click on repository analysis. So you create a repository analysis, and this is a new option that we are providing here. So you have to click code and security recommendations. One thing to note here is security recommendations currently are only provided on Java code basis. Support for Python is coming soon, but right now this option is only for Java code basis. Uh, and I can select a repository name. So this is just to go back into the dashboard and view your recommendations later in the future. And then I click on create S3 bucket and associate. So what this does is it creates an S3 bucket in your account, in your AWS account, and we ask developers to upload their source and build artifacts in this S3 bucket so that AWS CodeGuru Reviewer can pull this in an encrypted format and do security analysis. So now it says that this bucket has been created in your AWS account. And we also say that there have been permissions applied so that this bucket is not public and your code is secure. So now what we do is we ask for source files. So you upload a source file. Guru.
And just to clarify here, CodeGuru doesn't persist any of our code. That's right.
So we don't persist any of the code. So when so you upload code here in your S3 bucket. CodeGuru pulls this code into a Fargate instance, does the analysis. It is an isolated Fargate instance. It completes the analysis and it destroys the Fargate instance completely. So in that manner, there is no code persisted in an external account. So I've just given the source code and I've given the build code, and I trigger a security analysis. So now you can see the security analysis is pending. So this will take some time. Generally, security analysis will take around 10 to 15 minutes. But I have pre-run one that I can showcase for this demo. So if you see, this is the same run that I've been doing. And this one has 10, this one has 12 recommendations. Oh, sorry, 10 recommendation here. And you can see there are multiple. So the recommendations that are security related now in the dashboard are tagged by a tag called security so that you can easily identify which ones are security recommendations. So if you look at the first one, this is an example that I was describing earlier. So it says that you have used a hard-coded AWS credentials in your code, which is not a recommended process. So if you go to the code, you read the line. So you see line number 50 is where you're actually initializing using these hard-coded credentials. But if you go back, we actually tell where these hard-coded credentials were initialized. In this example, it happens to be in the same file in line 24 and 25, but really it could be in a different file or a different function. CodeGuru tracks your program flow to identify that. So here, this is the error that it is showing. Sorry, this one, like 23 and 24, where you have initialized the security credentials. Uh, Similarly, we can have other things. So this is one of the just looking for an OWASP credential. So this is setting cookie is not secure. So this is OWASP uh, common error that developers make in their code. So if you don't set your cookie to be true, there are vulnerabilities that might happen. And there is another example here. I can go to this line number 158. So this is a path traversal attack. So basically, you are creating a path here in your code, and it is possible that this path can be manipulated. And this is called a path traversal attack, very well-known security vulnerability. You can actually, we also provide a link for you to read more about it if you don't have context, uh, where you can read about this and then act on this recommendation. That's where we are with security.
Nice. And just really quickly, I just thought of this for CodeGuru Reviewer. Right now, when it's reviewing code, it's going by PR. Or can you also set it for saying, take a look at this whole repo and review everything? Can you choose which way you review those lines of code?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So with Reviewer, CodeGuru can you can invoke CodeGuru in two or Reviewer in two ways. One is you can do incremental code analysis for any incremental code changes, which is through pull requests, or you can invoke a full repository analysis. So note that security recommendations are only provided for a full repository analysis. So if you want security recommendations, you should do a full repository analysis, and that too only for Java code right now.
Perfect. And then the last thing that I want to talk about today is profiling. We talked a lot about the reviewers, the security detectors. What's new with profiling?
Yeah, customers again have told us that they are having challenges troubleshooting memory issues in production. So we launched memory profiling support for Java and other JVM languages. So you now get a full heap summary memory utilization per object type and can see which objects are consuming the most of your application memory. Uh, so memory profiling detects any abnormal utilization such as memory leaks or out of memory problems that can cause application crashes. I can show a quick uh,
See, let's see a
output
demo.
demo of memory profiling. So in this particular case, we have a demo profiling group that is actively profiling. And you can see here that we have this new summary page if you click on the profiling group. And it shows a very good summary of how much is your CPU that is being utilized, what is the latency, and what is heap usage. It gives, if you, so the main thing that we are talking about in memory profiling is this stuff, heap usage, where you can see that you have an allocated JVM max of 504 MB, and you're using an average heap of 43%, which is pretty good. But if you look at the peak heap usage, it is 73%, sorry, 75%. And this can become a problem and can escalate quickly. So if you want to realize what is happening here, you can ha- go to various heap, and then here you get a view or a time graph of how your memory has been uh, increasing over time. Or so you can see in this time graph, the memory is staying constant until 812, but then there is an increase in total memory usage starting from there. And there are a couple of objects that are related to this increased memory usage. You can see here that Java linked hash map entry, Java lang UUID, are the ones that are actually causing this increase. So you might want to go and debug what the issue might be. We also show average usage by type and average number of objects that were created, and also what the code type is. Is it a built-in, primitive, or even a third-party application?
Nice. And then just really quickly here, when we're running Profiler, is this only for EC2 or containerized apps? Can this also work on-prem?
When we are running Profiler, um, that's a good question. So it does work on EC2, and we can invoke it on on-prem as well.
Perfect. And then I know we're coming up to time here. Are there any calls to actions where our customers can learn more about all of the new launches, or any
Yeah.
places where they should check out any talks?
So we have blogs out here for each of our launches. There is a blog on security detectors, one on Python. We will be publishing one on memory profiling tomorrow. So these go in depth into the type of recommendations we provide, and the insights we provide. So if you're interested to learn more than what is presented here on the different flavors of recommendations we provide, those are good places uh, to go and gain more insights.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Vishnu, for joining us. And Amazon Code Guru looks like a fun service to check out right now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kunal.